Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of KRAD COVID Readings. I am Keith R.A. DeCandido, your humble reader. This time around, I'm going to be going back to one of my first ever professionally written and published short stories. From 1994 until 2000, Byron Preiss Multimedia Company and the Boulevard Books imprint of what was then called Putnam Berkeley, and which these days is Penguin Random, published a series of novels and short story collections based on Marvel Comics superheroes. Spider-Man, the Avengers, the X-Men, all sorts of stuff. And my very first professional fiction sale was actually in the 1994 anthology, The Ultimate Spider-Man, which I co-wrote that short story with John Gregory Betancourt. John and I were also the editors in charge of the line initially, and then John left the company and I took over from there. So for most of the run, I was the editor in charge. I also contributed several short stories to the line and one collaborative novel, a Spider-Man novel called Venom's Wrath, which I wrote with Jose Arnieto. What I'm going to read for you now is a solo story, my first solo story, which was in our second anthology, which was called The Ultimate Silver Surfer, which featured stories from throughout the Silver Surfer's career. About half the anthology were stories that took place while he was trapped on Earth, which he was from his first appearance up until around the mid-1980s or so. And the other half of the anthology were stories that took place once he was once again free to roam the cosmos. This story takes place while he was still trapped on Earth. It's called Improper Procedure. The Silver Surfer sat on a rooftop in New York City. He was not sure of the exact neighborhood. He was only certain that it was this particular city because of the familiar landmarks of the Fantastic Four's headquarters and the home of Doctor Strange. One accustomed to traveling across galaxies saw little point in trying to distinguish such tiny cities from each other. The humans called this place the city that never sleeps, and indeed, it seemed that the activity in this metropolis never stopped. A constant stream of humans flitted about, their actions incomprehensible to the surfer's experiences. But then, his own experiences were likely just as incomprehensible to them. At best, only the superpowered individuals he had associated with over the years, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the Defenders, could come close to understanding what the surfer had lost in his exile on this tiny planet. Then he noticed a human crouching on one of the nearby rooftops, wearing dark blue clothing and a hat with a visor attached. He seemed to be trying to conceal himself, and to other humans he probably was concealed, and wielding a large metal object. The surfer recognized the object. He'd certainly had enough soldiers pointing them at him. A gun. A quick look around revealed the human's target. Another human, a male in a nearby apartment. The male wore a white shirt and shorts and was speaking on his telephone. The surfer also spied two women sitting on a couch and a small child playing on the floor. The one with the gun spoke into a simple communications device. "I've got a clear shot." Anger boiled within the surfer. The intent was obvious. The human with the gun would murder the people in the apartment. Not for the first time, he wondered, is violence the only way they know? The surfer sacrificed everything so these pathetic creatures could continue their existence. He would not stand by and watch one of them kill others wantonly. Summoning his board to him, he stepped on its gleaming silver surface and sailed effortlessly toward the man on the roof. With but the tiniest fragment of the power cosmic, the surfer blasted the weapon from his grip, also causing some minor pain to the hands that held it. "Jesus!" the human cried. "You will terrorize your fellows no longer," the surfer said. Lieutenant Vincent Billinghurst wiped sweat off his bald head with the pocket handkerchief his wife had given him for Christmas. He shouldn't have needed it. The temperature had barely climbed above 60 degrees on this April morning, but hostage situations tended to bring out the perspiration in him. As he stuffed the handkerchief back into his suit jacket pocket with his left hand, he held the phone to his ear with his right. "Look, Hector," he said into the mouthpiece, "we don't want any trouble. If you turn yourself in, I promise nothing will—" "Don't give me that, man!" Hector Gomez's anxiety was obvious to Billinghurst, even through the tinny sound of the earpiece. "They're going to take my Soraya away from me! Ain't gonna let him. Now you let these bitches out of here and leave me alone. Gomez slammed the phone down, preventing Billinghurst from pointing out that he couldn't get the two women from social services out of Gomez's apartment because Gomez had threatened to shoot them if cops came near. The pair had arrived to take Gomez's daughter, Soraya, away from her abusive, alcoholic father. Gomez had agreed in a court of law to the terms of the remanding of his daughter into the city's care. But on the day he had to give her up, he changed his mind and held the two women at gunpoint. An hour later, Gomez hadn't calmed down and had shown no interest in turning himself in or letting his hostages go. Billinghurst's options dwindled with every second Gomez held his prisoners. He looked over to Eddie DeFilippo, the short, burly lieutenant in charge of the SWAT team, who said, "Roman's the only one that's got a clear shot at him without the women and the kid in a line of fire." Billinghurst thought a moment, pulling out his handkerchief and wiping his brow again while he did. "Then, I'm going to try to talk to him some more. Tell Roman to keep that line on him." DeFilippo glowered, though the effect was diluted by the mirror shades he wore. "Vince, you've been talking to him for half an hour. It ain't going to help. And Roman ain't going to have that shot forever. We got to take him out, and we got to do it now." Before Billinghurst could argue the point, his attention was drawn to what sounded like an explosion. It came not from the Gomez apartment, but from one of the adjoining rooftops where DeFilippo had stationed one of his people. Billinghurst had to avert his gaze at first, as whatever was up there reflected light like a mirror, and the glare from the late afternoon sun hit him right in the eyes. As he blinked the spots away from his eyes, one of the uniforms cried out, "Christ, it's the Silver Surfer!" Sure enough, the Silver Surfer was attacking one of the SWAT team. What the hell is that lunatic doing, Billinghurst thought. DeFilippo yelled into his walkie-talkie, "Kasalowitz, Jones, Perez, if you got a shot at the Surfer, open fire!" "No!" Billinghurst cried, but it was too late. Rifle shots from 3 different directions pelted the Surfer. Or, rather, almost pelted him. Before they could strike, they disintegrated, which relieved Billinghurst. He had expected the bullets to ricochet off the Surfer and hit God knew where. Yanking the walkie-talkie out of DeFilippo's hands, Billinghurst bellowed, "Cease fire, damn it! Cease fire!" Turning angrily on DeFilippo as the shots silenced, he cried, "Don't you watch the news? Read the reports on the super guys that come in? The Army hit the Surfer with enough shells to bomb out a building a while back, and it didn't do diddly. Bullets ain't gonna stop him, but they'll sure as hell piss Gomez off." As if to prove Billinghurst's point, Gomez leaned out the window and shouted, "What you doing? You trying to kill me? I kill you first!" Then he started firing wildly. Billinghurst ducked behind one of the squad cars. DeFilippo crouched next to him and snatched his walkie-talkie back. "Anybody get a shot on Gomez? Take it!" However, no shots were forthcoming. Billinghurst looked up and saw why. The Surfer had made a beeline for Gomez's window and blocked any shot into the apartment. "Hope someone at some point remembers to fill me in on what the hell's going on here," Billinghurst muttered. The Silver Surfer was incensed. He saved the life of this human, who now repays the debt by firing a weapon of his own at a group of humans gathered below. He now recognized that the person he had attacked was a member of some form of human militia. There were so many on this world that the distinctions had proven impossible for the Surfer to keep track of, but that meant little. The Surfer knew from bitter personal experience that these types of humans tended to shoot without provocation. He streaked toward the human whose life he had saved. "You will cease this action at once," he said, and he intended it as a statement, not a question or a request. The human looked up, and his eyes grew wider at the sight of the Surfer. "Get away from me, man! Get away! I kill you dead, man! Get away!" "I doubt that." Behind the human, one of the women, the younger one with the longer hair, started screaming. The older woman seemed to be trying to calm her down. The human whirled, pointing his weapon at the screaming woman. "Shut up, bitch! Shut up! Shut up!" She kept screaming, just as the Surfer guided his board into the apartment in the hopes of ceasing this madness. The human shot at her. The Surfer could have used his power to transmute the gun and its bullets into a harmless substance, but that required a certain delicacy that he neither had the time nor the inclination to indulge in. So he simply blasted the gun to its component atoms. The human screamed in pain. The blast burned his hands. He collapsed to his knees, still crying in pain and muttering something to himself. The surfer turned to his victim. Blood pooled on her white blouse at the shoulder. The surfer could not recall whether or not any human vital organs were located in the shoulder. He reached for her, but the older woman blocked his way. "What are you doing? Who the hell are you, anyway?" she asked frantically. "I am called the Silver Surfer." "Well, fine, whatever, but what are you doing to Mara?" The surfer shrugged. "The power cosmic may heal as easily as it may destroy. I will tend to her wound." "Okay. You won't hurt her?" "Of course not. Do these humans doubt everything?" "Don't let them," the human who shot her muttered. "Gonna take my Soraya away from me. Don't let them take my daughter." The surfer glanced at the small child who was huddled, crying in a corner amidst a pile of papers and children's toys. She looked frightened, which hardly surprised the surfer. "Is this true?" he asked the woman. "Do you plan to take this man's child from him?" "Well, sort of," she replied. "My name's Penny Kitsios. Mara and I work for social services. Mr. Gomez here was declared an unfit father, and we came to take his daughter into a foster home. Mr. Gomez agreed to this in court." While Penny Kitsios spoke, the surfer tended to the other one, the one called Mara. Then the door burst open, and several humans wielding weapons came in. "All right," one of them cried. "Everybody freeze!" "I am unaffected by changes in temperature," the surfer said. "Just don't move, okay?" The surfer regarded the human who gave his order. But for the dark hue of his skin, he looked almost like a native of his homeworld of Zenla, and the complete lack of hair on his head. He wore a white shirt and those odd knotted strips of cloth tied around the neck that human males favored. He was followed by several other humans, all of whom were armed. The bald human asked, "What are you doing to that woman?" "I am healing her wounds. She was shot by this person." He indicated the kneeling, whimpering human Penny Kitsios had called Mr. Gomez. "Great." The bald human turned to his compatriots. "Get these people downstairs to the paramedics." He turned back to the surfer. "When you're done laying on hands, you mind talking to me for a minute?" The various militia escorted Penny Kitsios, Mara, Mr. Gomez, and Soraya out, the latter being carried gently by one of the female militia. The humans all stepped over or onto the surfer's board, which irked him. He commanded it to rise and move out of the way. This action caught the attention of Soraya, who stopped crying and stared in wonderment at the board's movement as the woman carried her out. The bald human then commanded the surfer's attention. "I'm Lieutenant Vincent Billinghurst, NYPD. You got a name?" "I am called I meant a real name, unless you want me to call you Surfy." "I would prefer not." A pause then. "Once I was called Norrin Rad." "All right, Mr. Rad. You mind telling me just what the hell you thought you were doing out there? Thanks to you, I got an officer scared to death because a guy that looks like an Academy Award blasted his gun out of his hand. And your little attack spooked Gomez enough so that he shot up one of my people, and the lady from social services that you just did the glow bug routine on." "There were no deaths." "Despite your best efforts, no, but I don't see..." "Then that, Vincent Billinghurst, is what I was doing. Preventing you humans from killing each other." "You're kidding. You attacked an officer of the New York Police Department without any provocation." "He was attempting to murder a fellow human in cold blood. I could not allow that." "Gee, how kind of you. Never occurred to you, pal, that he was doing his job? And he was trying to prevent this nutcase from shooting his hostages?" Before the surfer could reply to this indignant human, he continued. "Of course it didn't. You super guys don't give two snots about actual police work. You just wade in, damage a lot of property, and leave us to clean up your messes." Is this the only way you know to prevent needless death? By perpetrating more needless death?" Billinghurst seemed confused by this. "What do you mean?" "This Gomez woman was holding 2 people hostage. Your only solution was to have your people shoot him down?" "No, that was the backup plan in case things got out of hand. I was on the phone with him, talking, trying to convince him to turn himself in. I might have done it, too, if you hadn't barged in." Billinghurst sighed. "Now we'll never know." The surfer realized he had committed a rather grievous error. I am sorry, Vincent Billinghurst. It would seem I am guilty of the very crime humanity has committed so often against me. Just as humans have attacked me, mistaking me for a threat or menace, so I have done today. My apologies. Billinghurst opened his mouth as if to reply, then closed it again, then finally said, "All right, I'm impressed." "I beg your pardon?" "I gotta admit, I never expected one of you types to actually apologize." The surfer frowned. This human seemed to think the surfer was anything but unique. "There are, to the best of my knowledge, none like me on Earth." "I meant you spandex types," he said with a laugh. "You know, guys with superpowers like, you, the FF, the Avengers, Spider-Man, Daredevil, those guys. I figured you guys would never actually care enough about someone normal to apologize." Another human in uniform approached Billinghurst. "Ain't you gonna arrest him, Vince?" he asked. "Oh, good idea, Eddie. You want to slap the cuffs on him?" Eddie, who wore the same type of outfit as the human surfer attacked on the roof, regarded the surfer for a moment and then said, "Well, maybe not, but damn it, Vincey!" "Save it," Billinghurst interrupted, then turned back to the surfer. "Listen, Mr. Rad, would you mind coming down to the station?" The surfer remembered his previous attempts to interact with humans, not to mention his other encounters with human law enforcement. None were pleasant affairs. "I do not believe that would be advantageous." "Damn right it wouldn't," Eddie interjected. "What are you, nuts, Vince? The only way he's coming down to the station house is in cuffs." "Your prisons cannot hold one who wields the power cosmic." Billinghurst actually smiled at that. "Yeah, I heard what you did to that holding cell down at the 17th. They said you were trying to start a riot." "I was trying to halt an alien invasion." An attack vessel from the Brotherhood of Badoon had scouted the Earth in a craft invisible to humans, but easily detected by the Silver Surfer. However, his attempt to warn the people of Earth was met with resistance, and he was attacked and taken by police into protective custody. The Surfer allowed this, not wishing to harm anyone needlessly, waiting until he was alone in one of their prison cells before making his escape to drive off the Badoon. However, he exited straight through one of the walls of the cell. Another unthinking act that endangered the humans, he realized. "Look," Billinghurst was saying, "it'd really make my life easier if you came along. Besides, it might do one of you super geeks some good to see how real law enforcement works." At first, the surfer intended to refuse, but upon further contemplation, he decided to accept Billinghurst's offer. It might prove useful to see humans in everyday life. He had tried before, but with a few individual exceptions, was always rejected outright. Only in the company of other super guys, as Billinghurst had called them, had he found any acceptance. But the Fantastic Four and the Defenders were not the norm of human society. And this time it was a human who invited him. "Very well," Vincent Billinghurst. "I shall accompany you." "Good." The one called Eddie shook his head. "This is a dumbass move, Vince." To Vince Billinghurst, the hustle and bustle of the Midtown Precinct North on 54th Street and 8th Avenue felt like an old coat he'd always worn. Since he first joined the force almost 2 decades previous, he'd accepted the almost solid wall of sound that was a police precinct as part of the natural order, in much the same way he accepted the noise of the elevated train right outside his bedroom growing up in the Bronx. The Silver Surfer seemed to have a bit more difficulty with it. Well, maybe not difficulty exactly, Billinghurst thought, but he sure don't look comfortable. Louis, what do you... My cat is going on the shopping stuff there. Just, anyway. Then again, this guy used to travel around space. No way that space was this crowded, or this loud. It had to be unusual for the surfer. No, not the surfer, Billinghurst reminded himself. Norrin. Think of him as Norrin. The Silver Surfer is some super guy with a lot of power and an attitude problem. You think of him as Norrin, but he's just another witness. Then he looked again at the man striding confidently next to him. Though of average height, the surfer seemed to tower over everyone in the room. An impression aided by the shiny surfboard that followed obediently behind him like an airborne dog. Just another witness. Sure, Vince. The room grew unnaturally quiet as they walked in further. While the noise never actually ceased, several of the other cops turned and gazed quietly on the sight of Billinghurst walking with the surfer, with Norrin. Most of these gazes were angry ones. Hey you, the stupid surfer! Billinghurst put his head in his hands. It was Grossman, the partner of Caggiano, the officer Gomez had shot. He moved to intercept the uniformed officer. Lay off, Grossman. Like hell, Lieutenant. This scumbucket got my partner shot. My apologies, Norrin said. I did not intend that anyone be harmed. In fact, my intention was to prevent violence, not cause it. Oh, really? Well, let me tell you something, Billinghurst interrupted. I said back off, Grossman. Do I make myself clear? Grossman glowered at Norrin a moment longer. Then he walked backwards, continuing to stare at Norrin as he moved away. You're lucky, you alien bastard. Jean was wearing her vest, so she just got some busted ribs. If she got hurt bad or killed because of you, you'd be a dead man. You hear? A dead man! Billinghurst grabbed Norrin by the arm and led him toward the door marked Captain KRAD COVID. This way. I fear coming here was ill-advised, Vince. I have done a grievous wrong, and my presence at this facility has only made things worse. Maybe, maybe not, but you're here now, so let's make the best of it. The captain, a tall man with short, jet-black hair, burst out of his office before Billinghurst and Norrin could enter. What the hell is that doing here? Mr. Rad is... Mr. What? Mr. Norrin Rad is a witness to the hostage situation, Captain. Why the hell hasn't he been arrested? Billinghurst suppressed a smile. The captain hated it when people smiled in his presence, but having already gone through this with DeFilippo, Billinghurst couldn't help but find it amusing. 'Cause I'm not stupid. Sir, if we could even process him, we couldn't hold him. Remember what happened at the 1-7? The captain glared angrily at Billinghurst, then turned his gaze to the surfer. Finally, he turned on his heel and said, Come into my office, both of you. Billinghurst loosened his tie. As usual, the windows were all shut, and since the captain preferred to leave the door closed, it was about 1,000,000 degrees and stuffy. He pulled out his handkerchief to stave off another onslaught of sweat. He hated meetings in the captain's office. He looked over to Norrin, remembering the surfer's comment about how he wasn't affected by changes in temperature. Billinghurst would pay a small fortune to have that ability right now. Okay, the captain said. Now tell me, slowly, just what happened. Billinghurst proceeded to explain the situation in detail, aware that the captain knew most of this, but also aware that the captain preferred complete accounts. The captain turned a frowning face on Norrin. So you... He averted his gaze. Jesus, I can't look at this guy. It's like looking at one of those damn carnival mirrors. Why'd you attack Roman? I thought he intended to murder Hector Gomez in cold blood. Didn't the uniform clue you in that he was there for a reason? The nuances of human clothing are not something I've studied in depth. The captain regarded Norrin for a moment, then said, Yeah, I guess you wouldn't have. Okay, now that you've managed to make hash out of my hostage situation, what do you want now? To make amends, if I may. Your Lieutenant Billinghurst requested that I come to the station and give you a full account, and also, as he put it, to see the intricacies of your work. The captain picked up a pencil and started fiddling with it, and staring at the eraser intently. Billinghurst knew this meant he had an idea. You want to make amends? The captain asked, gaze still fixed on the eraser. If possible, yes. Still looking at the eraser, he asked Billinghurst, Lieutenant, where are we at on that gun shipment? It's supposed to go down tomorrow night. Gun shipment? Norrin asked. The captain glanced at Billinghurst, an obvious cue to fill the surfer in. We've been setting up a big buy and bust for the shipment of M16s due to come into the 79th Street boat basin tomorrow night. We're hoping to nail the shipment when it comes in. The problem, the captain explained, is that we've been rushing this. See, the guns are Army issue. One of these guys stole them from a depot, so the Army's real hot to get them back. So are a couple of senators. Me, I just want to keep these damn guns off the street. In fact, that's the only thing that really matters, because if this shipment gets through, a lot of people are going to be a lot of dead. I don't like that. What is it you wish me to do? Norrin asked. Billinghurst wondered if the Silver Surfer understood or cared about the political ramifications. The only thing he seemed to directly respond to was the captain's casual reference to multiple murders. The captain continued to stare at the pencil, but replied, See, what I'm worried about is that things will get ugly. Anything goes wrong, we got us a primo shooting match. Means a lot of cops are going to get hurt. I don't like that either. So I'm thinking maybe I can get myself a nice, shiny ace in the hole, and then there won't be nothing I don't like. Finally, he looked up at Norrin. What do you think, Shiny? Norrin frowned. I am not sure what exactly I can contribute. The lieutenant here said that you stuck your silver butt into my hostage situation because you wanted to save lives. I want you to keep an eye on things from a distance. If it does get ugly, you remonstrate. Remonstrate? Get involved, Billinghurst explained. Do the same kind of thing you did this afternoon. Keep people from getting killed. Norrin seemed to be contemplating the offer. At least Billinghurst assumed that to be the case, since he remained quiet for several seconds, before finally saying, "Very well, Captain. I will be happy to assist your officers in this endeavor." "Great. Lieutenant, you take care of it. When this is over, I want a shipment of impounded M16s and this guy out of my life. Got it?" "Got it," Billinghurst assured. Billinghurst introduced Norrin to the officer who had done most of the real work in setting up the bust, a newly promoted sergeant named Vance Hawkins. The three of them coordinated the endeavor. Norrin had to repeatedly assure Hawkins, who was understandably skeptical, that despite appearances, the Silver Surfer was more than capable of being incognito. When that was all completed, Billinghurst asked, "So, you got any plans for the evening?" Norrin frowned. "Not as such." "In that case, how'd you like to attend a good old-fashioned family dinner?" Billinghurst asked with a grin. "I do not require sustenance in the same manner." "Sustenance has nothing to do with it. Look, you want to know what normal people are like? Come to dinner with me and my family. Ain't no better way to see us." Norrin seemed to consider this request, then finally said, "Very well. It might be educational." Billinghurst was about to say something in reply when a thought occurred. Don't know if riding the subway is such a hot idea. I mean, we might get a lot of weirdos on the 2 train, but still. And then the Silver Surfer did something Vincent Billinghurst never thought he'd see him do. He smiled. "I believe that will not be a problem, Vince." Vincent Billinghurst was not the first passenger to ride on his board, but the Surfer couldn't remember anyone being quite so taken with the experience. Vincent did not experience the disorientation and vertigo that some humans felt when riding virtually unfettered through the air. He explained to the Surfer that he'd gone hang gliding a few times, but that this was 1,000% better. They flew north past Manhattan and over the Bronx, the northernmost of New York City's 5 boroughs. Until this moment, the Surfer had not realized that the city's boundaries extended beyond the one island. "This is great!" Vincent bellowed, struggling to be heard over the wind. "It's like looking at a map! There's Park Avenue," he said, pointing at a street that had a train track bisecting it. "Bet you didn't know Park went into the Bronx, huh? There's Van Cortlandt Park, Woodlawn Cemetery," he added, pointing to 2 large parks to the north. "You better get down closer. See that street with the elevated train?" The Surfer, in fact, saw several streets that could be so described, and said as much. Vincent smiled. "The one just to the right of the cemetery," he yelled. Eventually, Vincent was able to direct them to the front entrance of the building on East 235th Street, near White Plains Road, the street where he and his family rented an apartment. Vincent had phoned his wife, Aisha, to inform her of their rather infamous dinner guest, so the Surfer's presence was expected. According to Vincent, Aisha hadn't planned on cooking anything after the travails of her day. She worked as a nurse at a hospital in a place called Bronxville, which, to the Surfer's confusion, was not actually in the Bronx, but said she'd cobble something together for the Surfer. For his own part, the Surfer did not see the need for her to do so. As he explained, he did not take his sustenance in the same manner as humans. In addition, he was more than a little apprehensive. Too often he had expected the hand of friendship from humans, only to find fear and loathing. They walked up 1 flight of stairs to the Billinghurst apartment. When Vincent opened the door, a voice came from within. "If you say, 'Honey, I'm home, Vince, so help me, I'll pop you one.'" Vincent laughed. "Wouldn't dream of it, darling." The front door opened to a small hallway that connected to 2 other rooms, one of which was obviously the kitchen. From that kitchen came a woman of the same height as Vince, but stouter, rounder, and with a full head of hair, braided in an intricate fashion that fascinated the Surfer. Zenlavian women tended toward simple hairstyles. Vincent kissed Aisha, then indicated the Surfer. "Aisha, this is Norrin Rad. He's helping out with the case." The woman reached out a hand, which the Surfer shook. "Pleased to meet you," she said, unflustered by either the Surfer or the gleaming boy. "What kind of name is Norrin?" The Surfer hesitated, unsure how to answer the question. It's Zenlavian." She frowned and then said, "Oh," then smiled again. "Why don't you come in and have a seat in the living room? Dinner will be on in a few minutes." I thank you for your hospitality, Aisha Billinghurst. You're very welcome. Two small children ran from the other doorway into the hallway then, one male, one female. The male collided with the surfer's leg. After picking himself up off the floor, he stared up at the surfer with large brown eyes. Whoa! You're that superhero guy, right? The super surfer? Ma! Alex bellowed. Alex is bothering me! She started it, the boy bellowed back. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Hey! Vince interjected. We have a guest. The kids quieted down. Norin, these are two of our kids, Lee and Alex. Kids, this is Norin Rad. Wow, Alex said. It's like, okay? The surfer frowned. Is what okay? That we know your secret identity. I don't understand. I have never made a secret of my name. Vince interjected. Never mind. Come on, let's get out of Aisha's way. I'll give you the nickel tour. The Billinghurst apartment was small and cramped. Nothing like the spacious residences belonging to the Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange. To one used to flying unfettered, the limited floor space and narrow hallways were somewhat unnerving. Upon noticing two items prominently displayed in the room where Vince and Aisha slept, the surfer asked their purpose. Vince replied, Those are our diplomas. When we completed our education, we got these certificates that say we're qualified to do our jobs. Fascinating. So, dinner's ready, came Aisha's voice from the kitchen, cutting off the surfer's query about the certificates. They entered the kitchen, which also served as a dining area. This surprised the surfer. The other human dwellings he'd been in had a separate dining facility. Vince asked, Where's Kenny? Aisha simply shrugged as she, Lee, and Alex put several platters on the table. He's late again. The front door opened and a young man, older than the other children and as tall as Vince and Aisha, came in. The surfer assumed this was Kenny. Where you been, son? Out, Kenny replied. Then he noticed the surfer. Whoa! Aren't you that surfer dude? Yes, I am called the Silver Surfer. Whoa! Kenny repeated. Then looked at Aisha. What's he doing here? Having dinner, she replied, which is what you should be doing. Sit down. Kenny obliged his mother. This is cool. He helping you with the case, Dad? Mm-hmm, Vince said while chewing his food. As Aisha sat down, she asked, Aren't you going to eat anything, Norin? The surfer hesitated. I do not require sustenance the way you humans do. I tried to explain this to Vince, but Aisha held up a hand. That's okay. I wasn't sure you were going to be able to eat anyhow, being an alien and all. The surfer remembered that Aisha was in the medical profession, so she obviously understood about the differing biologies of two different species. Hey, Alex said, you carry a gun like Dad? I do not carry any weapons, no. Alex frowned. How do you fight the bad guys then? I do not fight the bad guys as such. I attempt to stay the forces of chaos that ravage this world, and when I do, I am assisted by the power cosmic. I don't get it. I mean, what do you do? The surfer hesitated. How do I explain the power cosmic to a child? He barely understood it himself. He was spared this necessity by Vince, who said, That's enough, Alex. Eat your food and stop pestering our guest. I do not feel pestered, Vince. The child's questions are legitimate. It is simply difficult to explain the power cosmic. What do you need the stupid surfboard for? Kenny asked. This question took the surfer aback. Without it, I could not travel the skyways. Or navigate the depths of space, he added wistfully to himself. Don't you control it? Of course. Then what do you need it for? Stupid, Lee said, rolling her eyes. Because he couldn't fly otherwise. So you got all this power, Kenny said, and you can't even fly without some dumb surfboard? Son, Vincent started. Well, I want to know. I mean, if he's so damn powerful... Aisha interrupted. Don't you swear, Kenny. You are so dumb, Lee said, shaking her head. Please, the surfer said, and that quieted the table for the moment. I am afraid, Kenny, that I do not know why I need my board. My power was granted to me by Galactus. I would not presume to guess at his reasons. I know only that it was his decision that I should only be allowed to transport myself by means of my board, and that there is little I can do to change the will of Galactus once he has decided upon a course of action. Kenny didn't have an answer to that at first. Then he finally said, Well, I still think it's dumb that he can't fly. By the time 8:30 rolled around, Norin announced that it was time for him to leave. Billinghurst was disappointed by this. You sure you can't stay a little longer? I mean, Lee and Alex have gone to bed, so it might get a little quieter. I mean no disrespect, Vince. I have enjoyed the company of your family, and have experienced many things I might never have encountered had you not invited me to your house. You sure you won't stick around? Norrin hesitated. You must understand that I find my confinement to this planet almost unbearable. I am afraid that if I should remain in a space this enclosed for much longer, I will go mad. The proverbial light bulb went off over Billinghurst's head. Oh, hell, I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, I guess it makes sense that you'd be claustrophobic. Claustrophobic? There is no fear involved, Vince. Simply what I am accustomed to. Whatever. Look, I'm really glad you came. For one thing, you've probably given my kids the thrill of their lives. I am happy to have given them pleasure, and I am glad to have had this opportunity. My direct experiences with humans have not always been the most cordial. I know, Billinghurst said, remembering the hostility at the precinct house. Now remember, you hover near the boat basin around 9 tomorrow night. Got it? Norrin nodded. I will be there, Vince. Good, he replied, hoping and praying that he would not see Norrin at all the next night, since he was only supposed to show up if things got hairy, and Billinghurst did not want things to get hairy. This made him realize that he may never see Norrin again at all, so he added, Listen, Norrin, in case I don't see you tomorrow night? He hesitated. Yes? Norrin prompted. Take care of yourself, okay? And try to get all the facts of a situation before you go wading in with both barrels. I will endeavor to do so, Vince. Thank you. Then Billinghurst reached out his hand for a handshake. Norrin frowned at first, then smiled and returned it. Be good, pal. With that, Norrin Radd stepped through the open window to the fire escape, his board hovering behind him. Then he stepped onto the board and soared southward, following the path of the elevated train. Only after he left did Billinghurst realize that the window had been closed only moments before. Damn super guys. 24 hours later, Vincent Billinghurst sat in a car just off the traffic circle that surfaced the 79th Street exit on the Henry Hudson Parkway. Next to him in the passenger seat was Sergeant Stephen Drew. Both wore earjacks that allowed them to listen to Sergeants Acevedo and Hawkins, who awaited the arrival of the gun shipment of the boat basin itself. Both were wired, their transmissions going to every unit parked near the basin. The boat's coming in, came Hawkins' whisper. Acevedo added, Time to bake the donuts. As the two undercover officers prepared for the boat's arrival, Drew turned to Billinghurst. Hey, Lieutenant, where's Oscar? Who? Billinghurst frowned. You know, the surfer guy. We've been calling him Oscar. Uh-huh. Well, as it happens, I haven't the foggiest. Let's hope it stays that way. He's only going to step in if things go bad, and I do not want things going bad. No, sir, Drew said, shaking his head so emphatically his blonde hair shook. If you don't mind my asking, whose idea was it to get Oscar involved? There was a hint of criticism in Drew's voice. The captain's. Oh. And mine. You have a problem, Sergeant? Yeah, I got a problem. Caggiano got let out of the hospital today. She's going to be stuck at a desk till her ribs heal. And it's that guy's fault. A lot of the guys think, Sergeant, I don't give a hoot in hell what a lot of the guys think. Let's try some facts. Fact, the surfer screwed up and he knows it. Fact, he's sorry for what happened to Caggiano and he's helping us out tonight to try to make up for it. Fact, he could have just flown off on his surfboard and forgotten all about us. But he didn't. Before the conversation could continue, they heard voices in their earjacks. You got the money, Acevedo? No, I just like standing on docks after dark. Of course I got the damn money. You got the shipment? 8 mangoes in them boxes. Yeah, well, I'm sure you won't mind if I take a look first. First, let's see some cash. The only thing they heard then was the clicking sound of a briefcase opening. Presumably Hawkins was showing them the cash. Acevedo then said, You get the briefcase after I see all the boxes. Send them down, the contract shouted. Several tense moments followed. Drew fidgeted in the passenger seat next to Billinghurst. Some clunking noises, the boxes being thrown down from the boat to the dock, followed by the sound of a crowbar opening 4 boxes in succession. All right. Genuine Army-issue M16s and a full set of ammo. Very nice. Just like I said, Acevedo. Hey, I never doubted, my friend, never doubted. Just gotta be careful these days, am I right? These guns will definitely let me be all that I can be. That was the signal. Billinghurst started the car and drove down the incline to the basin. Drew said into the radio, "All units converge! Repeat, all units converge!" Just as the car reached the basin, Aceveto's contact cried, "What the hell is that?" A bright light blinded Billinghurst just as he stopped the car. When his vision cleared, he saw the Silver Surfer flying straight towards the dock. What the hell is that lunatic doing? Billinghurst wondered. The bus was going down smooth as silk. There was no reason for the Surfer to interfere. Gunfire ricocheted off the Surfer's body, but the alien showed no sign of noticing it. Instead, he simply made a beeline for the 4 crates that sat on the dock. When he was within a few feet, he thrust his hands forward. The 4 crates then exploded. Bizarrely, the wooden planks did not catch fire, and while the force blew Acevedo, Hawkins, and several others back a bit, the explosion hurt no one. Billinghurst blinked. He didn't realize Norrin had such tight control over his power. Then the Surfer flew off. Drew stared up after him. "Lieutenant, how do you do that?" Billinghurst said nothing in reply at first. Then he shook his head and said, "Come on, we got a bus to finish." The next morning, Vincent Billinghurst loosened his tie as he entered the captain's office. "Close the goddamn door," the captain said. Sighing, Billinghurst obliged, pulling out his pocket handkerchief to hold in reserve. The captain stared at Billinghurst for several seconds before finally saying, "This is a goddamn disaster. I got the commissioner and the mayor calling and giving me crap. I got 3 generals, 2 senators, and a guy from some government department I never even heard of bitching at me because a lot of government hardware went poof. And I got an angina attack coming on, and it's all because of your silver friend." "Sir, if you don't mind..." "Shut up, Billinghurst, I ain't finished. I also got a bunch of suspects I'm going to have to kick because there's no evidence to back up the busts. The DA's ready to hang me by my little toe, and these garbanzos got some hotshot lawyer that's threatening to sue the city. None of this is making me a happy person, Billinghurst." "Sir, I said I ain't finished. Sir, if I could just say one thing." "Fine, say your goddamn thing." Billinghurst took a breath, then wiped the sweat from his bald head. "Sir, you yourself said to the Surfer that the only thing that really mattered was keeping those guns off the street. You told him that nothing else mattered." "I never said that." "Yes, sir, you did. You told him that the only important thing that we were trying to accomplish here was to keep those M16s off the street." "Well, he did that. I mean, come on, he's an alien. You think he gives a hoot in hell about senators and evidence and government hardware in the DA's office? All he cares about is keeping people alive. That's why he let himself get trapped on this planet when Galactus showed up. That's why he got involved in the Gomez situation, to keep people alive. And he did it again last night." The captain stared at Billinghurst for almost a full minute before finally speaking. "I just got 2 things to say to you, Billinghurst. Any crap this precinct catches, you're catching right alongside me. This was your operation, and you brought that shiny son of a bitch in here. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I see that bastard in here. I don't care how goddamn powerful he is. He gets busted for interfering in a police operation. Got it?" Billinghurst knew better than to argue the point any further. "Got it. Get the hell out of my goddamn office." He rose and left. He passed Caggiano's desk on his way to the men's room, but stopped when he noticed the flowers. They looked sort of like roses, but he'd never seen a deep color of indigo on roses before. "Who sent those?" he asked the officer who was typing up a report. "I don't know. I've never seen flowers like this." Sergeant Hawkins wandered over. He was renowned in the precinct for his vast knowledge of trivia. He said, "Those are panther roses. Can only get them in Wakanda." "I got them yesterday morning. The card just says, granting you a quick recovery. NR." And then Billinghurst laughed. He wondered if the Surfer, if Norrin, had gone straight to Wakanda after leaving his apartment. Instead of going to the men's room, he went to the roof of the precinct. He saw a few helicopters in the sky and spied Thor of the Avengers flying past at one point, but caught no sign of the Silver Surfer. Of course, Norrin could be in outer Mongolia right now, Billinghurst reminded himself. Still, he looked up at the bright New York sky and said, "Good luck to you, pal." That was Improper Procedure in The Ultimate Silver Surfer, which unfortunately is out of print now and very difficult to find, as are all the other books in the series. Some of the books are being re-released as audio. The Ultimate Silver Surfer isn't one of them yet, but others are, including several of the novels I edited, and the 2 Spider-Man anthologies. Ultimate Spider-Man and Untold Tales of Spider-Man are available in audio now. If you check on Audible for those, you can find them. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check me out on the web at DeCandido.net. You can read my blog at DeCandido.wordpress.com. And you can support me on Patreon at Patreon or I don't know how to pronounce it. Patreon.com/KRAD, KRAD. Thanks for listening, and please stay safe.